Okay, so my favorite part of the brain. Favorite part of the brain is the hippocampus. And this is an important part of the limbic system, a cortical region that regulates motivation, emotion, learning, and memory. It is located in the inner region of the temporal lobe, just under the cerebral cortex, and it is S-shaped, and it is within the medial part of the temporal lobe. Its functions are regulating learning, memory encoding, memory consolidation, spatial navigation, and behavior. So for learning, pyramidal cells of the hippocampus play an essential role in eye blinking condition. This is a standard model for studying associative learning, and the rate of acquisition can be impaired or increased by hippocampal manipulations. And the hippocampus plays a role in conditioning. This is when a short interval is imposed between the condition and an uncontrolled or an unconditioned stimuli, After eye blink conditioning, a long-lasting neuroplasticity is generated in the hippocampus, which is needed for the learning process in the trace eye blink conditioning. Memory encoding and consolidation. So the hippocampus is divided into three regions: CA1, CA2, and CA3. They form a trilaminar loop, which is the processing center of long-term memory. Long-term potential, or LTP, which is the form of neuroplasticity, occurs in the hippocampus, and LTP is a vital brain mechanism involved in memory storage. The complex processes of memory encoding in the hippocampus and retrieval of experiences from the frontal lobe involve two prominent pathways: polysynaptic and direct pathways. In the polysynaptic pathway, the hippocampus receives different inputs via axons of the enthorial cortex, which terminate in the dendrite gyrus. From there, neurons of the dendrite gyrus send mossy fibers to the neurons of pyramidal cells located in CA3. These pyramidal cells, neurons, are further divided into two branches. One reaches the opposite side of the hippocampus via corpus callosum, and the other connects to the CA1 through the Schaefer collateral pathways. From there, the projections leave the hippocampus to return to the inferior temporal cortex, temporal pole, and prefrontal cortex. The polysynaptic pathway is important for the semantic memory, which is facts and concepts, and the direct pathway is important for the episodic memory, which is the recollection of events. Spatial navigation. This is the one major function of the hippocampus, which is forming a cognitive map. This is a type of mental representation related to acquisition, coding, storing, recording, and decoding of information on relative locations within a specific environment. Place cells, a type of pyramidal cells, are mainly involved in the hippocampus, in the hippomedial spatial navigation. These cells are activated when an animal enters a particular place in its environment, place field. However, these cells remain silent when an animal is moving outside the place field. Besides place field, the firing rate of the place cells depends on the direction of movement, direction of destination, or any other task that is, task-related factors. Behavior. The hippocampus plays a big role in flexible and goal-directed behavior. In an act, hippocampal activity is required for forming and reconstructing relational memory and is also required for remembering arbitrary associations between objects or events associated with flexible cognition and social behavior. The role of the hippocampus in behavior inhibition is also well established in the literature. The link between hippocampus and inhibition have been derived mainly from two basic observations. First observation is that damage to the hippocampus makes animals hyperactive, and the second is that the damage to the hippocampus reduces the learning ability of the animals to inhibit responses that they have learned previously. The hippocampus acts as an evaluation center associated with behavioral inhibition, obsessional thinking, scanning, and spatial map formation. However, the hippocampus does not actively participate in controlling behavior once an experience is characterized. External stress induced increased cortisol level eventually reduces the firing rate of the hippocampus. A new hippocampal function has been put forward. It has been found that low-frequency firing activity in the hippocampus can influence the function integration between spatially separated regions in the cerebral cortex, leading to increased sensory response, such as vision, hearing, and touch.